This
I have nothing
conference
else.
will now be recorded.
I would like to call the February meeting of the Harbor Advisory Committee to order. Can I have the roll call, please?
Here.
Oh.
Here.
Wilson,
Here.
Stellick, Labar,
Here.
Luther,
Here.
Winterstein.
Here.
Stellick is excused grudgingly. Did you guys get a chance to look at the agenda? Is there any modifications to the agenda?
The only thing I noticed on the critical issues at the bottom, it states that the aerators or the bubblers are run year round. And I'm guessing.
On the agenda. I screwed up and said minutes.
Okay.
Any modifications to the agenda?
Sorry. Yeah.
If not,
Make a motion.
I make the motion.
Support.
all in favor?
I
Sorry.
Now going on to the minutes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Jeremy.
just in the critical issues that I noticed that it states that they run year round, and obviously I'm guessing that's.
No, they run from ice on to ice off. So if we could modify that in the minutes. Any other modifications or corrections to the minutes?
So. Do you want a copy? I got everything.
Oh, yeah, I've got.
There.
If not,
Got all this stuff on there. I think it's in one.
go ahead.
I move the approval of the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to, see, this is what happens when I don't get things the way I want them. To the business, looking at the standard operating procedures for complimentary slips. Cassie did send out for us a invitation to the people that would be affected by the standard operating procedure for complimentary slips. I know we have at least one in attendance, looks like possibly two. If they would like to speak first, or if you guys want us to go over things and then have the opportunity to speak, it's up to you.
I guess we can go first.
Yep, use sailing. Just state your name so we have it for the minutes.
I'm Pete Wilson, president of Alpena Youth Sailing Club. We've had the luxury of having some free dockage since we've been running the program down at the harbor, and I know that's got a significant value. The proposal suggests that we would try to offset the free dockage by providing volunteer hours from the kids. And we kind of met about that and talked about it last week, and there's some problems to that plan. One, you're trying to corral these kids to come down at what time, how many are going to show at any given time, or we're going to have to keep track of hours. Some of the projects you might do, like painting the railing, do you really want to have 14 and 15-year-olds down there painting the railing and being responsible not to get paint all over and some other things? From a management standpoint, it requires us to figure out the days and the times, and then if kids don't show up, then what are we going to have, an alternative time that they got to come down? So then some supervisor has to come down another day to supervise that group of kids. So we would propose, I guess, and prefer to pay for dockage, but at some, dramatically reduced rate. And I suggested like $100 a boat, which would be $900, just to give you an idea of how the program works. Our sailing schools revenue last year for this program was $3,500. So the kids paid $200 a piece, and our only revenues that $3,500. We had to pay the instructor, which is $1,500. So that only leaves us a couple grand left over to do all boat repairs, pay for insurance and other expenses we have. We're going to bump the fee this year to $250 a kid. We're trying to keep the fees low. It's a nonprofit, but the purpose of the club is to have kids participate, and we need to keep that fee low. So we're trying to keep it at $250. If we have 7 Yinglings plus 2 power boats, and you're trying to maintain all those boats on a couple $1,000, you can imagine that falls short every year. So we're already collecting donations from other places to pay for boat repairs, to put on bottom paint, to, like last year, there was a collision. We needed $1,000 in fiberglass work on one of the boats. So what I'm proposing is trying to come up with a compromise other than, trying to create a whole nother volunteer program that's going to require supervision from the city and us, and try to come up with a reasonable fee we can afford, and then the program can continue forward as it has in the past. If it becomes too expensive, it's just something we won't be able to do. And I understand, what we would do would be triple the boats up. We have 9 boats. We triple them up in 2 slips. So the U-shaped slips, we would use 3 of those sections like we have in the past, and stay out of everyone's way. Does anybody have questions about that?
With this year was your first year doing Giving Tuesday.
Yes.
How much do you mind me asking how much your organization raised to that?
$7,500.
$3,500. Okay.
But this isn't our only program.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
taking that $7,500 and we're buying an Opti and a Bug with that money, which is about $7,500. So we're out getting donations, but we're also supporting that other program for the younger kids. So again, there's kind of a limit as to how much begging we can do. And of course, you try to ask people for donations to buy boats, they kind of get excited. You ask them for donations to buy slips or pay salaries or ongoing expenses, that doesn't really generate a lot of interest. The Alpena Yacht Club gives us $1,000 every year. Presqu'île Yacht Club gives us between $500 and $1,000 to support the Grand Lake program. And then we get other incidental donations. But what we've tried to do is raise money when we have capital improvements, like buying these 2 boats this winter.
Do you reach out to any grants or youth and rec or anything like that in the past, have you? Or
We've got last year, the year before, we bought a couple boats as well and got some money, not from the youth and rec, but we got money from the community foundation and the youth community foundation and one other source. I forget what it was offhand. So we have done that. But again, all those grants are for capital stuff, not, ongoing expenses. Operating expenses are really tough to get with grant money.
correct?
Pete, what about and that's probably like donations, but like scholarships or sponsors, like within the community, if they like sponsor a kid, what I'm getting? I don't know if you've ever,
So
maybe you already do that. I don't know what,
we have a couple people that donate every year to sponsor free lessons. And last year we had some pretty good, in years past, it's been hit or miss. So we all have this vision of finding this perfect kid who wants to go sailing, but mom and dad can't afford the fee, right? This is the perfect child we want to find, but they're not as easy to find. So last year we partnered with the Boys and Girls Club to see if they had some recommendations. And out of that, we had 4 scholarships available. We filled 2. And then it was kind of interesting because one of them, a third one, he said, hey, and this so-and-so is also going to be on scholarship, but then the mom paid anyway. So, I mean, our fees are $110 for kids for the young lessons and $250 for this. So we've kept the fees. What we're doing is keeping the fees at about 75% of what the program cost us, and then raise that 25% every year to pick up the shortfall. And just adding these boat slips on top of that is another problem.
well, then the next question would be can you get not you necessarily, but can people actually give money, not necessarily a scholarship, just give it to the youth sailing and you can put that aside. It doesn't have to go for a kid. I mean, those would be the two.
Yeah, and we do get about 1,000. I mean, it varies from year to year between 1,000 and a couple thousand private people. We're a 501(c), so it's tax deductible.
But you know, you don't go on the community that, you know what I'm saying is that.
No, we don't.
Right.
My goal with this whole thing has always been to run very efficiently and very simply. And it drives me crazy when these nonprofits come out and beg for money year after year after year. So I've really tried to avoid that. I've tried to keep the tuition at a spot that pays for a good chunk of it. Tried to keep a lot of the donations within the sailing community itself. And then occasionally when we bought a significant number of boats, then we've gone out to the community at large. But we haven't had a consistent program of donations because we've just tried to avoid that path and try to keep it simple and inexpensive.
Could somebody refresh my memory as to what we were looking for relative to the donation expected from the youth sailing program? What was the assessment?
What I had said on that is we would take what their dockage was, divide it by 3, because typically there's 3 youth sailors in every boat. And then that would be at whatever rate we paid our summer help at, would be the rate that we would figure the hours of service needed. And that would be how they would pay their dockage for the year.
My next question was, and that it set a red flag to me. And, you know, I actually read this, Shannon, you could give me.
It's not me.
But the first thing I wrote on this was insurance. On the kids working down there, I mean, what if one fell off the dock? I mean, what I'm saying is that, you know, is that doable anymore? Because that's the age we're living in. I don't know. Are they all covered if they're down there working for you guys? For
Be a question, I would have to ask the MML provider if they could be covered as part of that.
I mean, that'd be my next, you know, I'm
Because our
not even.
Yeah, our policy begins and ends while they're sailing. So whether that would extend to volunteer work that results directly from sailing, I don't know.
Well, and I know when I was checking on something else, one of the things they did state was that there's an assumption that when you're doing things, sometimes there's an understanding of liability. So we probably would have had to come up with some kind of form that was signed by the parent stating that the kids are down here, they're doing things that could potentially be a little bit, you know, they could get hurt basically, and that they understand and they waive liability. We would have had to probably made a form for that fact for those kids while they were on site.
Yeah, and the just to so be clear, but parents can sign those waivers, but the state of Michigan doesn't, you know, doesn't really allow if you got strict liability. You can't waive their liability. If they get hurt, you know, due to something that we did, then we got a problem.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't waive your child's right to sue.
Mm-hmm.
So we've run into it at the rink.
Yeah, same. Yeah, that's where it started. I think was with a hockey person.
Right.
Actually.
Darn hockey
Well, that
people.
was, that's all.
So anyway, that was, I mean, I think the idea of the volunteer hours makes sense. It's just the implementation is problematic.
Do you think of having it, so when I used to be in rowing coach back in California, we used to have just the kids anywhere from 8 years old to 18 years old maintain the boathouse and the dock systems we use. So it's more localized rather than just like generic odd jobs throughout the marina space. Do you think that could be an option, or is that still a little?
Well, I mean, if
outside your,
I mean, if,
also that's a team versus a.
yeah, I mean, so, you know, like right now, the kids have to put, you know, they come down, they wax the boats, they clean the boats, they have to rig the boats, launch the boats. So there's a fair amount of not necessarily fun part of the program already. And I'm a little reluctant to add more non-fun to it. But if you're talking about, yeah, clean the goose poop off the docks that we're parked at, I mean, I don't think that's a big deal. But, again, I think if we're saying, oh, hey, it's worth 10 grand divided by $50 an hour, you got to give us X number of hours. Now I got to keep track. Oh, Mary Lou gave us 4 hours this day. I mean, it just, again, it deteriorates into a whole separate project pretty quick. And I'm trying to get out of that. And, it's almost easier to raise a little money and offer a little money than it is to do all that. And again, the one coach is paid, but the other 2 are volunteers. I'm a volunteer, so I'm not trying to add a lot of more work onto us either. All right, appreciate the consideration.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks.
Eric, did you want to speak to the committee?
No, I read the standard, trying to think of the name, operating policy here, and everything looks good, and I completely understand what everything says, so I really don't have a whole lot to say. Other than I can add on the youth sailing program if you want to hear what I have to say.
Sure.
Growing up in Alpena, I grew up at that boat harbor, and what you got to remember is those kids who are getting hooked into the sailing sport, those are going to be your slip renters down the road in the future. So I understand that, like all government, we're all hurting for money and trying to find revenues. But, I love watching the kids out there. I love seeing our harbor and our bay filled with sails and, with the regattas that they have and bring revenue into our town with all the nationals and all that stuff. I think it would be smart to work with the youth sailing and keeping those kids active and future boaters down the road. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Discussion by the committee in regards to that?
I guess I know for me in previous meetings when we had talked about kind of like coming up with a hierarchy of how this was going to break down. I mean, I'm kind of agreed to what Eric just said too. Where, this is our future renters. These are, our future sailing community. Well, not anymore, but there's guys that are younger than me that are sailing in our marina, and they're coming from the youth sailing program. So given how the organization is structured right now, I mean, I kind of understand. I'm personally of the opinion of cutting them a break, given what they do for a community in terms of the community development aspect. Now, whether that's a severely discounted rate or if that's just, let's just go full pro bono on it, then because that's what's up for discussion.
I think I could support what Pete is suggesting in the $100 per boat arrangement. Seems to be some contribution. And I can imagine organizing that group of young kids would be like herding cats to get some blue paint on the railings. So anyway, I guess I could certainly support that. I think the youth sailing program is an essential piece for a community such as ours on the water with a harbor.
I just want to say that first I'm active with the sailing club, and I think Pete's idea, of course we've talked about it, is probably a pretty good compromise, I think, in the end, given what I know about the organization. And I know the harbor, from a harbor committee standpoint, we're trying to raise some funds, and seems to me that a small organization like this, supporting the youth of Alpena, which is critical, is a far more place to go to, give a break than to some sort of, Michigan DNR or something like that, who has a ton of millions of dollars. So, and plus it's a homegrown school, it's all local stuff. So I think we should probably, I would think this is a good direction to go.
Is it Shannon or anybody else, I guess, in this room that has maybe knows a little bit more about this? Is there a way we could set up that if we're all agreeing to do basically $100 per boat for the youth sailing program, if for whatever reason the youth sailing program has financial issues in the future because of low attendance or whatever, and that $900 becomes like a bit of a hurdle, is there a way for them to come to us and ask for like a suspension or a decreased amount? I'm just trying to think, just in case in like 5 years, with COVID and every parent wanting their kids in a camp in 5 years, let's just say they have a short season, the $900 is all of a sudden too much. Is there a way we could put that in, or is that even necessary?
It's one of those things that they can approach the harbor master at that point in time. And he or she can decide if it's a viable option and then present it to the city manager and to city council and get their opinion.
Okay.
If we're going to go that route with them. And again, I think Rachel and I kind of both agreed that this is the best case scenario for us. We need their slips. At that point in time, that's when this whole thing goes into play, is that they're probably clear and free for a little bit here yet. But if we get to the point where we need their slip, their comp slip is in danger at that point in time, maybe that's the way we approach it, is that as long as we have those slips available for them and there's not a renter for them, then they maybe don't need to pay that $900 until it becomes an issue.
I'm thinking that, so as I understand it, we're proposing, sorry, I came in a little bit late. We're proposing $100 per boat, and you think there will be 9?
Yeah, that's what he said.
And I think we should probably revise this language to be open-ended enough that we don't have to go back and change the policy, nor do we need to go to city council for permission for something like that.
Right.
I think that could be, it could be brought to the harbor master. We can discuss it, and then we can make a recommendation to the HAC. And if you agree, then that's what we do. And, even if timing's of the essence, we could do a quick too. I don't think it's, as long as this is open-ended enough to address that.
And that I think is the hope, is that we don't have it so locked down that it's impossible for us to be able to live with. We just, again, I think everybody in this room agrees that youth sailing is going to be our future boaters. We're already seeing that. So it's just a matter of trying to be able to balance everything out where we're not giving away the farm while we're making certain that we have a future here. So I think if that's agreeable to everybody, we can actually write that language in specifically for the youth sailing group, in order for that to happen that way.
Shannon, do you need a motion on this? If so, I'll
That's
move
what
that
I'm actually need a motion.
we go along with the $100 per boat fee as an alteration to our, the policy that we currently have on the table. That'll be a motion.
Second.
Okay. So I need a vote to the fact that we're going to modify the document to include a verbiage for modifying the youth sailing section of the SOP to include $100 as opposed to the sweat equity that is proposed right now.
Shannon, may I
Yep.
ask if,
Emily.
so is everything else in the policy agreed upon? Because, this policy is still in draft form. So
And it is, and that's what,
either it could be approved with that modification, and that could be the motion, or we bring it back next time.
well, and I guess that was my question to everybody else, is that's the motion on the floor. Do we have any other discussion at this time?
Including
The whole document? Yep.
So,
Should own it. That's what I was next. I didn't know what the procedure was.
Steve, did you have something?
yeah, so I just want to make sure I understood everything here correctly. So we're saying that we're going to charge the youth sailing club $100 a boat. We're going to give the United States Coast Guard, Michigan DNR, and the Alpena County Sheriff a free slip. And now we're going to charge NOAA, government fisheries, and educational institutions. Is that the plan? See where it says in there may be granted, but are we going to grant? And who gives the grant to these other entities? Or Shannon, have you approached them and tell them, hey, we're going to charge you guys? Or what happened with that?
Cassie sent out an email on my behalf to all of the agencies that were going to be affected by the standard operating procedure. Youth sailing and one member of the law enforcement approached or has come today to discuss. The other entities did not and never did email us back. So NOAA never came, or we didn't hear from NOAA. We didn't hear from any of the schools or anything like that. Boy Scouts never came, none of them.
You said they were informed of this change.
We sent them, Cassie, did we send them the standard operating procedure? We sent them the standard operating procedure and told them that it was going to be up for discussion at this meeting. And if they had anything to comment on or wanted to be considered as part of the standard operating procedure, that they should attend this meeting and or get us some information back to present at this meeting.
I had some early discussion with Jeff Gray on this matter, and I was surprised something wasn't forthcoming, but it is what it is. So if we don't hear anything, my motion was not meant to stop discussion on any of the other ones, but
right.
The sailing one is the one we're looking at.
Yeah, so I would say that, because I think when Shannon, you went through the other harbors, the law enforcement was easily decided that they deserve a slip. But these other entities, are we going to send them, since they didn't respond, just send them a bill?
They're not getting a bill right now. Right now, so long as I have slips available that are not filled by seasonal purchasing people or boats, at that point in time, they're going to continue their comp status until such a time as it becomes apparent that I need their slip for a paying customer. And
okay, so why don't we throw the Boy Scouts and Alpena Youth Sailing in that same category? I mean, we're going to charge these small organizations, because the Boy Scouts is a local deal too. I think, Eric, you were involved a little bit in that, but NOAA's got a ton. These are government entities with tons of money. They just, if they don't give it to us, they give it somewhere else, spend it somewhere else. So I mean, it's not like they don't have the money. It's a matter of priorities where they want to spend it. So either I would say, if we're going to charge the Youth Sailing Club and the Boy Scouts $100, we should charge NOAA and the fisheries and the educational institutions money, period. I mean, that's just how it seems fair to me. Why would we not do that compared to these other organizations? I mean, otherwise, we're kind of going back to how we were last year, basically. So, I mean, I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. It just seems a little odd.
Now, we found out that the DNR was being charged in other harbors. Is that correct?
yes, it seemed like the only ones that were getting comped were one or two law enforcement boats that were coming or that were in those other harbors.
So it's my understanding, and this is Rachel, I'm sorry, I'm sitting in back, that we are going to comp youth sailing unless we need their slips. So
Correct.
It's the same arrangement with all of them.
Correct.
But if it becomes necessary to, have that slip, then that's when we would charge the discounted rate.
Correct.
Correct.
That was my intent with this, is that youth sailing could go 3 or 4 years here without me having to charge them. Or they could have this year, have to come up with the $900 to do it. It's not, just the way the policy is wrote right now. And that's why I guess we have to have this conversation, is if we don't want to comp all these boats, then we need to probably rewrite it a little bit and come back to the next meeting with it one more time.
Does the,
We certainly have time to do that.
Yeah, and we do, because it's the March meeting. If we feel that we want to come back with this at the next meeting, and we have enough changes at this point in time, I would feel more comfortable if we came back to the next meeting and voted on it once we got all this ironed out and you guys could read it one more time. Especially if we're saying at this point in time, we don't feel that NOAA and these other ones deserve comped positions.
Correct. I would feel more comfortable that way, because I get the feeling that, Steve, if I was following you, you don't want it comped only if the harbor is full. It just shouldn't be comped at all.
so I think right, whoops, I'm thinking some of the discussion was that these places, I don't know if it's too late in the year or whatever, I mean, we can do whatever, but I was saying these places haven't been comped anywhere else, right? Is that my understanding, Shannon?
To the best of my knowledge, from the other marinas we've spoke to, it's mostly just law enforcement that is comped at those marinas. I can't remember on that sheet I sent you last time if there was anybody else
I believe
that was.
that was what,
I think it was just mostly law enforcement. We're unique in the fact that we have the sailing program in our marina.
Yeah.
So that was hard to get any kind of feedback on. Everybody else on the other side of the state that has these sailing programs are part of private marinas that the rate is $600 and $700 for these kids to be there. So part of that is the docking fees.
Yeah. Well, I'm not against it. If we want to go ahead and, if we have space, we have space. I guess we've been doing it in the past, and we are focused on other things. So, I mean, it's can always be redressed every year, I would assume.
And it can be, but what we're trying to do is not have something that's a moving target. I'd like, and that's why I'd like to have the standard operating procedure be something that's substantial and has some longevity to it. Because then it's not a question every year of, oh, am I going to get comped or not? Then next year they know to budget $1,400 or 12, whatever it is, 1702 or whatever. So they know that as part of their budgets or whatever. And that's what I guess that's why I'm trying to say, if we're going to not comp them, maybe we give them this season, if they can't get it into their budget or something to pay for their docking. Maybe it goes into, we go through what has happened in the past for this one season so that they can adjust their budgets or figure out where their money is going to come from. And then next season we start charging. Or we just do away with all the comp docking other than reduce rating the youth sailing groups and giving law enforcement comp dockage in the position that I put them in, not necessarily on the docks that they're on right now, but maybe they get moved over to the complementary docks or the day docks there that have no power or anything, because it doesn't sound like many of them need power or want power. And put them there. Two things. Number one, if they can pull right up down by the big flagpole and jump on their boat, it's probably quicker than trying to get a parking spot over where they're at right now. It's one of the things I was looking at as far as moving them there if I ever had to.
What's the value of the dockage that, say, NOAA with one of their research boats has along the harbor wall there? What's the value of that? What were you thinking of charging, let's say, NOAA for that? Well, they also have a small slip, don't they? They had a couple.
Yeah, they got a couple of them. I think that small one was a 1357 or something like that. And then I think the bigger one would be 33 something. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now and I can't remember them off the top of my head.
So the big one would be about $3,300 if in fact we didn't comp them.
Yeah, the storm would be 30.
Okay, that's good enough, close enough numbers, but, and then the other one, they have one other slip for their 30 footer or whatever.
1357, I want to say. It's whatever that, I think it's under 32 feet. So it's about, they'd have about $5,000.
Yeah, $4,700.
Yeah.
So at this point, I guess it sounds like there's almost two different things. One is we proceed with discounting the Boy Scouts and the youth sailing, and they only pay that until the slips are needed. And then there's another opinion where we start initiating. I know I'm generalizing some of the stuff here, so clarify me, but like, so either the one is we give everyone basically a freebie year, and then payments start happening in the following year. So 2023 summer slip fees will start coming into effect. And then the other one is to start that now. Where basically once we approve it, that at least NOAA, that bracket of other agencies, they start getting hit by a slip fee for this coming season.
Yes, I think so. Well, and or to do the standard operating procedure as presented, which is they would lose their slips as they got to the point where their slips were needed, they would start losing their slips or pay for them.
Okay.
You know, what we could do is we could say, you know, like Noah, you get, how many boats do they have down there? One? Just
Two.
They have two. The Storm or the big 50-footer is in there, and then they have one other one down along the
Over by the
docks.
flagpole.
But do they bring other vessels here?
Oh, they do. I think from time to time, there's another vessel docked here, sometimes more than 2 or 3 probably.
Yeah, there's sometimes that catamaran is in.
Yeah.
I always call it a catamaran. It comes in.
They have a really big one coming in, but it's too big it's an ocean-going vessel. It won't come into the marina at all.
Right.
That's the next 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So it'd be the 2 boats, the Storm, and then I've never caught the name of that other one. I've never seen it on it, that smaller one. Those 2 would be charged seasonal dockage. And then, like I said, that smaller vessel comes in occasionally and they would just pay transient dockage when they were here.
Yeah.
Seems to me
So-
we keep figure out
Even
a
for-
Yeah, now you gotta solve.
Right, I think we're,
I feel like a knot.
Okay.
even if the harbor is empty, we don't feel that we want to charge NOAA in our Coast Guard that fee in this. I can see like not in this, they've probably all budgeted, we're past January 1.
Right.
I could see leaving it till 2023, but I guess I was looking at or under the impression that we were going to be charging them, and I can see holding back with the 900 to the youth sailing and leaving that as the language is, if the harbor is full, then they have to start paying. But I guess I was assuming that NOAA and the DNR and the Coast Guard.
Yeah, that seems to be what we've been discussing
Regardless, right,
at previous meetings.
right.
Do you feel the Coast Guard should be paying?
Yeah, regardless of,
Whether or not we're.
Okay.
So basically anything underneath
Would they fall under under the
law enforcement branch.
law
Yeah,
enforcement?
typically we put law enforcement included the Coast Guard.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I agree.
Okay.
But now the Coast Guard did agree or talked to me and said, well, we may pay a slip fee just so we're guaranteed our spot.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I
Um,
thought at one point was that having those entities pay would eventually, we could potentially ensure like some slip,
right,
like a better access slip for emergency so they don't have to put in or
right.
run down the docks. I mean, that was kind of the thought. I was under the understanding of, and I'm sorry, I should have looked at this more closely, that the Coast Guard was going to be put in. So like the Coast Guard, NOAA, governmental fisheries and educational institutions were going to be the ones charged. And that we were looking at giving them a grace year and have that hit 2023. And then Michigan DNR and the sheriff's office would still be comped because of what they provide. And that the Boy Scouts and the youth sailing were going to be comped until slips were needed. And then this, what we're now proposing is the $100 per ship
Mhm.
fee is.
If it's full, right?
If it's
If it's full,
and Shannon needs the slips, she goes, hey, your slips are needed. You now have to
pay the,
pay that. Pete, how much does that, would that mess up your organization in any sense if all of a sudden, okay. I just didn't know, some people work with different budgets and different timelines, like you said with January 1st.
No, that's very, very satisfactory.
well, and what it would do is if you had that money set aside for us, it would kind of, it'd almost be like a savings account where the next year, maybe it's it helps pay for a capital or something.
It's so vague, that's just.
Okay,
You know,
well,
much of the-
Go ahead.
go ahead, Al.
I'm walking on somebody here. I was going to say relative to the NOAA boat, I do know that much of our research dollars come from other universities throughout the United States, mainly the East Coast, where they come out and do research on a NOAA vessel.
Yeah.
And we would be, I think, able to pass along some of those costs to the various programs that come here for research. So I don't know that that's a crisis for NOAA, but if we're going to wait, I guess maybe we wait a year, and I can support that too, I guess.
Okay, there's enough changes to this at this point in time. I think I would feel more comfortable as far as presenting it back to you guys at the next meeting in final draft. So just going through things,
Motion, no, so we'll turn his motion down. It's still on, the floor,
you
right?
can withdraw it.
Huh?
You guys can withdraw it.
Okay, I would be willing to withdraw my motion, which was in support of the $100 arrangement with the youth sailing.
Second.
I don't know who's second.
Who seconded it?
Seconded.
Okay, are you willing to withdraw your second?
That's what I'm trying to get, yeah. Jeez. Robert's rules.
Well, we don't really do Robert's rules. We more do.
Hey, we're close. We're closer than.
It was too cold. Yeah.
Okay, so then the motion has been withdrawn at this point in time. I just want to make certain that we're all in agreement. The youth organizations, the youth boating and sailing organizations, we will give them their complimentary dockage until the point I need it. At that point in time, it will be $100 a boat.
Yep.
Everybody's good with that?
Yes.
Law enforcement is going to continue to be comped.
That's including Coast Guard, DNR, and Sheriff.
You guys agree with those three?
As long as they buy gas, you know.
Gas doesn't really do me a lot of good. You know, and I guess that's what I'm asking. Are we in agreement that those three, or do we want them to pay dockage? Because we've had two conversations here.
Yeah, I guess when we talked about it last month, I thought it was just going to be the local, as in the sheriff's department, but going outside that with the state and federal government, I guess I wasn't assuming that was the direction.
Yeah, that seems to be what we talked about.
Right, right.
Does the DNR, are they more for, they're not law enforcement really on the lakes. They're more for, are they enforcing fishery rules, or what are they doing out there?
No, they can do anything they want. They're sheriff, they're state police.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
I
believe,
mean, they can arrest you on the road, whatever, and they're the most powerful law enforcement people in the state.
They actually are. Well, and that's,
Well, being in the sheriff's department, I would argue with that. But, you're a law enforcement officer. If you have taken the oath, we all have equal authority. But the sheriff is the only one written in the state constitution. But anyways, I do appreciate the gesture of giving the sheriff's office a complimentary slip. I think it is big for our community to have our patrol boat sitting there and able to respond, not only for law enforcement purposes, but quite frequently we team up with first responders and go out for medical emergencies also. But I certainly do appreciate that. That's just all I have.
well, and I think our intent with that was always for emergency rescue, to have those boats ready, willing, and able. If you're just an organization that's going to go out and write tickets or do fish studies or whatever like that, your boat can kind of go in and out pretty easily. But the Brookie, for example, last year, the ability for those guys to get right on the boats and get right out there was important to everybody. So I think that's the ones we definitely want to see comp, the Coast Guard, those people there. where they're able to immediately go in an emergency situation. I think is always kind of what our intent was here at the city. And I don't know if you guys agree with that or not.
Derek, you don't have any problem with being on the comp docks, right? I mean, by the flag there, if they do that?
No, that'd be fine with us.
Well, and I guess,
You don't necessarily have to plug in that much or anything, right? I mean, as far as,
We
Power.
haven't, up until this last year, we did have a couple times where our batteries were drained, so we did start plugging the boat in. But yeah, typically, we don't use a whole lot of power.
okay. And there's no power on those docks. That's why we're asking. But what we would do then too, I believe, is I would reserve those last 2 spots for emergency vehicles. So that they would have no issue. They could pull right in and go.
Okay.
So we feel like the emergency vehicles, if the DNR is a rescue boat, that one can stay, the Alpena County Sheriff and the United States Coast Guard can stay there for emergency response reasons. Is that kind of correct, guys?
That's fine with me.
and now, maybe Eric knows this too, but the Coast Guard's trailer now all the time, right? They're not basically here like they were 2 years ago, correct?
They're
Correct.
here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is what they told me. They're here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday they put in.
And the other thing you got to realize is you're correct. There during the weekdays they go back up to St. Ignace, but they only run from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And being in Alpena, I can tell you as soon as the ice leaves our bay, there's fishermen out there, and they're certainly out there until the ice covers it. And quite frequently we do have to run on those in that time frame. So, but yeah, it's just giving you a heads up that they're not. I mean, they're here for the good portion of the summer, but they're not here at all boating times.
Correct. Okay, so we are in agreement that the emergency ones, NOAA, governmental fisheries boats, so like US Fish and Wildlife, those boats, and educational institutions are going to pay. So the U of M boat, the Central boat, NOAA, all of those we feel are going to pay, correct?
That's my understanding. And that's going to start in 2023.
3.
Yep.
We're all in agreement that it can start in 2023.
Yep.
Just because of their budgets, let them adjust their budgets. We'll notify them that's what the decision was.
Yep, that's good.
Okay. Not a problem. Then I will get this corrected, get it back out to you, and it'll be on the March agenda.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Next order of business is the Harbor Advisory Committee bylaws. Look, we have bylaws. Did you guys get a chance to review these? Ed looks excited about them.
This time, so we
That
got
was so much fun.
Okay. Did you guys get a chance to review them? Everybody got a chance to look at them? Any comments?
Pretty boilerplate, so.
It is pretty boilerplate. There's nothing, I don't think, crazy in it, so it shouldn't be an issue.
I think if staff is happy with it, I think, I'm sure happy. It's not too exciting stuff.
Okay.
So is everyone happy? We're happy.
Yeah.
The one quick one with our committee strive it. So section 2.1, the harbor on page 1.
Yep.
The Harbor Advisory Committee shall strive to represent all users of the Alpena Marina. The youth member and the general community member, is that something as positions open up that you or whoever's harbor master at the time will strive to fill those positions with that more diverse grouping?
Yes. Right now, general community member, I think, is Al.
Okay.
is kind of what I figured. He doesn't, he's got no skin in the marina.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a general community member. So I always kind of said, yeah, Al was kind of that person. We have a charter boat captain.
Yep.
We have a seasonal powerboat user. We have a seasonal sailboat users. So the next kind of portion that I thought we needed was like a day use boater, that I would hope if we had an opening that's where we would end up with. And then the youth members, correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, that'll be part of that youth and government.
Oh.
That will happen.
Then
It'll be an additional member.
Right, and actually we should look at the DDA bylaws because we just updated to include the youth member and
How that works, okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know this is just a draft, but we should look at that.
Yes, so I mean, that one is above and beyond the 8 members of the committee that are here. And then with that youth member, I think part of that is that we want them to look at possibly one of those, if they have marina experience, those are the people we'd put on this committee.
And that's a voice, but there's not a voting power within that, like the DDA, correct? Or would that be different for us?
Correct.
A youth member would be, that was set up and appointed here. That's not a voting. That's just more of an advisory type position. Okay, cool. That's the only question I had.
Any other comments on that?
It's good. Do you need action on that?
No, because Rachel just told me we have to rewrite portions of it.
You guys are gonna be busy.
I don't think there's any reason to approve it. Maybe that gives you a little more time to, take a look at it, but, yeah, so we'll add in that one section, but that was just approved at the last DDA meeting. So.
Yeah, so I have to update that youth member and explain that more in this document. So, because they don't have voting rights, how they were appointed, things like that. There's specifically how that happens because it's part of that youth and government.
Cool.
So we're just going to continue the current leadership chair until next January, hey? That's February.
Well, did you look at the next item?
Oh, boy. No, I guess not.
Steve, you open your mouth, you got the job, kid.
Yeah, well, darn it. Oh, wait.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, number 2, the infamous number 2.
So I will get that rewrote. That'll be on the next agenda also. Moving on to the second item on here with the bylaws, you see that now we have to have officers for this committee. So I propose today that we do the election of officers.
Do we have only one officer now, the chairman, or do we have others?
I don't think you guys even have a chairman, as close as we could tell.
You had a spot one time and you got to be chairman.
Yeah, let's not go there on that one.
Okay, so that's where we're at today. So at this point in time, I believe we're going to be looking for nominations for the chair of the Harbor Advisory Committee.
Do we have other positions there? Do you have a secretary or treasurer, any of that, or just a
We
chair?
got a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary.
I would really like to see Don as our chair. You seem to be very knowledgeable and engaged in our committee, and your input is greatly appreciated.
It's like
And
kind of
if you accept that nomination,
It's second.
That was a nomination, Steve?
that was a nomination. I think, Don, you'll do a great job. Good point person.
I have a nomination and a second. Is there any other nominations for the position of chair?
Were you going to accept that, Don?
Up to that seat.
Yep, he's got to move to the mayor's seat, yeah.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, you get the head one, yeah.
Any other nominations?
Motion and nominations be closed.
No, we got to do the vice chair.
Thanks.
And I think.
Well, that's how you do it. I know how you do it.
I think I'll make a motion too that, any one of the members of the Harbor Committee could be the vice chair. And And if Don accepts his position as chair, I think that he should, maybe I make a motion that he chooses his vice chair, since this is the start of our.
Wow, you guys are really going for it.
Well, let's try to follow Rob's rules of order just a little closer than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any other motions on the floor for chair? I have a motion to close nominations. Is there a second?
Support. I can't support
I
my,
need a vote to approve the closure of the nominations.
Aye,
All in favor?
aye.
Okay, we also have a motion on the floor to vote for the chairperson being Donald Labar. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Guys.
Congratulations.
I need,
Just like that.
Name badge?
No, Don, you're really engaged, and I think you'll do a great job. You're
I
needed.
appreciate that, Steve.
Which means you have to revise the bylaws to make sure that he has.
Oh, yeah, just send me the Word doc and I'll.
yeah, he'll take care of that. That puts me off the hook.
Thanks.
So we don't have to officially do anything with the vice chair or the secretary, is that what we're saying?
Is that even allowed?
I think we do.
I
I
think
mean-
we probably have to
Officially have
nominate
bylaws.
them.
I mean,
Yes.
you guys can wait on
I'm
that.
setting up the structure for the bylaw.
Yes, so if you guys don't want to have a vice chair or a secretary, we should probably have a,
Somebody that's on the committee be the recording secretary or?
no, I have that wrote into the bylaws, so you don't have to.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Well, we should have a vice chair, because somebody needs to run the meeting if Don's unavailable.
Well, I guess that was my thought too.
Yeah.
I gave
Um,
myself a really fancy title in there.
And I don't take vacation, so no one will have to run the meetings too often.
I don't know, I remember somebody going on a honeymoon one time.
Yeah, that's so long
I'll
ago, I
second
can't
that one.
remember that.
You didn't hear me.
What?
Year?
I'll nominate Elmo for vice.
So,
For vice chair.
I would, do you want me to make another nomination?
Sure.
Well, I got a nomination on the floor right now for Elmo,
Can I
Okay.
second that?
and I have a second. Is there any other nominations?
Steve's got one.
I'll pass now that you're interested, so.
Well, I don't know.
Come on, Steve, who do you got?
I was thinking Tanner would be a good vice chair.
Since he's not here.
It's not here, but he could do it. And I guess what I'm thinking, my thought process is, it's good for us to have new ideas from, people who are gonna be around here a long time. Don,
Jeez.
most of the guys are gonna be here a lot longer.
I got a new job up in Marquette.
That was my thought process anyway. So that's where I'm at.
So that's enough.
That's not a bad idea.
Can I second that?
You can second that one also. You've seconded them all. Any other nominations for vice chair? I am going to need a roll call
Yeah.
with who you vote for.
For vice chair,
Actually, I have to, wait a minute, I forgot. Is there any other nominations?
Why we nominated the people?
You can, is there any other nominations on the floor? Okay, if not, we can go into discussion on the nominated parties. Who would like to speak first?
I'll talk.
Ed, you talk.
Okay, the reason that I'm nominated Al is he's a power boater and he's been a sailor boat, so he's both.
I used to be a power boater, now I'm a non-boat
Well,
owner.
no, but you're gonna be again. I'm not going there, but you're both.
No, I understand.
So so he's got a little different idea on both aspects of what's going on. Okay, that's my
I
reason.
think Steve had his,
Hopefully he's gonna be around for a couple of years, Steve.
I'm open.
Well, I'm not over the red line yet, as Don Ormrod described. You get over 80, you're over the red line.
okay, any other discussion on the nominees?
I guess my quick thing is, Al, now that you know that there's a second nomination, do you even want to be considered? I mean, this is your kid's
I think Tanner, I think the idea of a younger person with those ideas, certainly, I support that, and I certainly would withdraw my nomination from that. I do sense, and I think Ed's got a point, that representation of the power boaters is not a bad thing, but I'm not one of them. So, I think we have to keep that blend going on the Harbor Advisory Committee and not lose that. So but I will certainly withdraw. I think Tanner would be ideal. And
Should nominate you.
so,
Poor Tanner.
He could have been chair.
we could make Tanner secretary too.
Oh, yeah, we do. Or we can make you secretary.
No, I'm pretty busy.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Seeing none. Now I can do my roll call vote to vote for who we are going to put into position of vice chair.
Rutherford?
Oh,
Oh,
Who? Oh, you calling? Who are we voting on right now?
You or Tanner.
Well, I'll go. I'm with Tanner.
chicken.
Wilson?
Is that me?
Yeah,
Tanner.
Clark?
Tanner.
Luther?
Tanner.
Bernstein?
Mo.
What was that count? What?
4 Tanner, 2 Mo.
4 for Tanner and 2 for Mo. So at this point in time, Tanner is the vice chair.
Okay.
Good, cool.
You want to make a power boater the secretary?
Okay. Now, nominations. Time to open the floor to nominate the secretary of the Harbor Advisory Committee.
Do we think there's any value for next March? Because technically we don't need to actually have all the officers picked.
Correct.
Is there any value to waiting on that one until we have a more full representation here? Because Wayne, I'm sure he'd kill me for saying this, he owns a powerboat too, and he's not here, but not that I know if he wants to do that or not, but I don't know if there's.
Or clarification of what the duties entail.
Yep. And we can do that. We can hold that one. We can table it. We can table that discussion for the next meeting.
Take the can down the road.
Just
Okay, critical issues. Sent you guys some pictures yesterday.
looks awesome.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
We ran out of black paint, of course. And it is coming in on the Home Depot truck tonight, hopefully, and we'll be here tomorrow. If not, there are 4 5-gallon drums sitting, or 5-gallon containers sitting in Petoskey, and somebody's going to Petoskey to pick it up this weekend. Unless somebody's going over, one of you guys are going over there, but right now that's the plan. Is I think I'm headed to Petoskey to go grab that this weekend if we need it. We're hoping it's on the truck there today.
That's ceilings?
Just ceilings are being painted black. The walls are going to be white. We wanted to get the ceilings done first so that we could then tape them off and do the walls without overspray from the ceiling, just because you're spraying upside down. I know right now one of my guys has got a deadline of February 10th. He swears he's going to have it painted before then. So he wants to see it get done before February 10th. So that's the goal right now, is to have the building painted other than the floor by the 10th. I'm working on the request for leasees for the building right now and working on the lease portion of it. Somebody who wanted to be on that list was actually in the building yesterday, taking a look, trying to pick where they wanted to be, their station to be listed or their spot to be listed. So they were down there already taking a look. So we've got some interest anyways of people who want to come in. It's a micro business, but it is at least some interest going in there.
Good.
Other critical issues that we have going on down there, trying to get the newsletter out here in the next couple of weeks. Also, we've got some other stuff, other commitments that we're going to have here, but I'm hoping to have that coming out here shortly to everybody. Other than that, the reason we have a February 10th deadline is one of our Marina Techs has quit, has resigned, I should say. Jason has asked or has decided to resign at this point in time because of some family commitment issues. So we are going to be advertising shortly for a new Marina Tech down there.
What?
So looking for, it's a very specialized position. So most of the time we train people. So you're going to be seeing that advertisement coming out here shortly that we are going to be looking for a new Marina Tech down there. I've also been discussing with various companies management software for the marina. Might reach out to some of you guys to take a look at that with me as we get closer. One of them that we are looking at currently is kind of a nice setup. It would only be used for the seasonal people, which it's sad because there's some pretty robust programs that can manage full marinas, but because of the DNR involvement in our marina, we have to use their DNR software for transient traffic. So everything we're going to do is going to be just for seasonal traffic. But the one guy that I talked to here in the last 2 days, that program is set up to the point where if you guys have a bill, it'll send that bill out, your seasonal bill. I tell them they go out on February 1st. You guys get an email on February 1st with your seasonal bill, gives you multiple options to pay for it. The house accounts, you go up there, you give your account number. It bills your fuel. At the end of the day, it takes it out of your bank account. So just some nice setups in that kind of stuff as far as that's concerned. So some pretty nice software. The ability to send you all out a text saying that there's an issue or whatever, quick contact, keeping track of everybody. So there's some pretty nice softwares out there that we're looking at. And so I may reach out to you guys if everybody's even as far as price, what you guys would like to see as far as what's involved in that and what's available. We were invited and I accidentally missed an advertising meeting through the MEDC or the MML and the MEDC for advertising in our community. Kind of out through the Pure Michigan, it's going to be above and beyond the Pure Michigan advertising. So that is going to take up some time here with us as far as they're reaching out, brainstorming what we can do to improve tourism back in the areas after COVID and trying to get things moved back around with what was going on with COVID as far as recovering. Reservation system is down currently for the DNR for our harbor. They can't figure out what's wrong.
Us?
There's a couple of them, but right now, just us. They cannot figure out why they can't get the city of Alpena's to work. So Alpena Marina currently, for whatever reason, is not working. Our DNR contact was out for 2 weeks and he just got back and when I sent him the email, went on the site, pushed the button and said, why isn't this working? So he is aware, Camus is working on it. They're trying to figure out why our reservation system isn't working. The reason we knew it was even down is I have been getting phone calls. So we have some interest of people wanting to come in. I've got a week of brown trout that somebody is trying to book, and then I've got another group that's trying to book a weekend with 4 or 5 boats. So hopefully we can get that squared around here shortly. After some overheard discussion at the last harbor advisory meeting and another conversation I had shortly thereafter, the guys and I are trying to get an ice rink to work down at the harbor for the Ice Fest. We flooded it for the first time the other night. We're just pumping the water right out of the harbor onto the ice and trying to smooth it out. And hopefully, everybody keep your fingers crossed. We're going to have an ice rink then down at the harbor for the Ice Fest.
When is it?
Ice Fest is February 12th.
Okay.
That's a great idea. Feed in the harbor.
Yeah. Nope. I heard a certain somebody talking about how much fun he used to have and walking to Mishikiwas to skate and, you know, coming down out at dark and everything else, and somebody else supporting that and everything else. So,
Must have been some real old guy.
yeah, it must have been. But he was talking about it. So, I'd actually mentioned it to Ann earlier, trying it, and then I figured we would push forward and try to do it. So the guys are trying to get the ice rink to flood. Hopefully we can get it smoothed out a little better than it is right now.
In front of the Marina building area.
What we're doing is kind of right in front of the boaters lounge area. We're gonna, I don't want to mess up the fishermen.
Yeah.
So we're kind of pushed over in that area. What that does is then I don't have to try to get lights out on the marina, because between using the lights that are going up the walkway and the lights we have existing there, we have enough light out there for people to skate that evening. So we're giving it the old college try. We actually had a fisherman come over and drill a couple holes for us. You know, the guys were trying to get chipped through it, and he's like, you're never going to get through there. So he drilled us a couple holes so we could get the pumps down in and get that done. So everybody keep your fingers crossed. Right now, it looks like we're going to be able to pull it off and go from there. Monday night, we had the Goose Management meeting. Got a committee group together that is looking at different options as far as trying to keep the geese under control. We're going to try kind of a mix of fixes down there at the marina and across the entire town. In addition to just the hunt that's going on in the egg collection, we're going to try a couple other things. The silhouettes, going to look into how much the ultrasonic systems are and stuff like that. One of the things the committee is looking at right now is the possibility of like adopting one of these fixes for keeping the geese. Silhouettes come to mind because you can put a silhouette out and it works for a little bit, and then the geese get used to it, so they come back on shore. So it's kind of like adopt a silhouette, and you keep moving your silhouette around so that the geese are freaked out because the silhouette was here one day and now it's over here, and then a week later it's moved. So going to be looking for some volunteers across the community and in different locations to try to keep things under control with the geese a little bit better than we have been. Seasonal bills went out in the mail yesterday. So hopefully you guys are going to see yours in the mail here shortly. And there are the deposit, the $100 deposit to hold your slip is due at the end of the month, at the end of February. And then your seasonal dockage money will be due in full by the time you put your boat in, or June 1st if you're a trailer boat that's not on my lot. At that point in time, if I don't get the deposit by the end of February, you're in the possibility of forfeiting your slip. And then we'll go to the wait list for people to move into those slips. If you're talking to people and you say, hey, just check with the people around you and make certain that everybody got their bill, because we didn't have a really good record of who was where in a lot of those slips.
You probably have their address.
Most of the Prentice Street side of it, we're pretty close. I'm concerned there's about 4 or 5 slips there right now that don't have names on them. That I know a few of them are emptied, they're not coming back or whatever. There's others there though that I remember seeing boats in them and their names aren't on any documents, so I don't have any idea. So check with your friends and everybody that's down there. Make certain they're getting their seasonal slip boat.
Can you email us those slips if you remember them, or is that, because there's a couple of sailors I know that maybe be able to point that out.
Okay, I can.
But
Yep, I can send you guys the slip list I have. Where I'm really shaky is over on the transient docks. There seemed to be a lot more boats there than people who called me, because if you remember, everybody got that letter in the mail and said, hey, you need to get a hold of us and let us know you're coming back. And there's not a whole lot of people over there that reserved and said, hey, we're coming back. So that's my concern. And
Have you by chance talked to Arlie? Just to see,
yeah,
are there abandoned boats, basically? I mean, in that
well, and there, you know, that's,
sense.
yeah. And that's where Arlie and I went through the list. Rich and I tried to go through the list. You know, he tried to work with me and try to make certain we had everybody. Yanglings are where I'm really concerned. I don't know, other than you sailing, I have one Yangling seasonal that's reported back to me, and that's Steve. So he sent his slip in, but I think there are other Yanglings that are part down there that are not reserved. So I'm kind of got a little bit of concern over them more than anything. Other than that, any other questions for me? Any additional public comment? Any additional member comment?
Just a comment. I was down at the building probably a month, 6 weeks ago with Shannon. I'm telling you, that's some really neat improvements in that facility. I'm excited about how that's going to look when we're finally done. It was a circus, a mess in there, to say the least. So nice job on that, Shannon.
Thank you. I'll pass it on to the guys. They've been working pretty hard down there. Sean McNamara has been able to release a couple of his guys down to me as they've had time. I had John and I down there fixing walls and grout and everything else. We have some pretty talented people at the DPW, and the ability to use them this year has been pretty big. The guys who have come in addition to Kelton and Jason have given us some really critical feedback and some really great ideas there. So I've been really pleased with what they've done for us this season.
Yeah, I know I've heard a couple of times, more so recently, how many people commented on the changes that are going on in the Marina building. And I tell them, like, yeah, you know, that's the city, that's Shannon. So it's definitely going more and more noticed by the community as they see that the city's investing in that area. So it's cool to see that.
Yep. And again, I invite every one of you down there. Come on down, take a look. Jeremy's taking me up on it. He's been down there once, taking a look at it when it was a hot mess still. It's still kind of a hot mess down there, but things are coming together. Like I said, we're hoping by the 10th that we have paint on the ceiling and the walls so we can get a really good feel for what the building's going to look like. Any other member comment? Any staff comment? Next meeting is March 3rd, with our new chair being able to run it. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Not a problem. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Eric, thank you for your input today from the public.
Great meeting, Shannon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thanks.